How to become a cyborg. Here's how you can become a real cyborg right now. Step 1. Have a buddy made of flesh and blood. Step 2. Put the buddy through a terrible accident. Wait. Step 3. Get smart engineers to experiment on you for research purposes. But you're still stuck on step 2 right now. So how about we take a look at some real-life examples of cybernetic upgrades you can get? Great. We've got sense augmentation, telepathic communication, and finally, bionic limification. Let's start at the bionic eyes. Bionic eyes. Hostile detected in 1978. Engineer William Dobell tried to create artificial vision. He found that when you electrically stimulate the visual cortex, a splotch of light called a phosphene is perceived. He then stabbed a bunch of little electrodes in and mapped video camera footage to them, creating a dot matrix of phosphene. So now someone wearing the device could see the outline of shapes. One of his blind patients even regained enough vision to drive a car. I can finally see now. His work was showing signs of truly helping people, and then he died. Everyone realized that he barely documented anything. All that research straight down the toilet. But since then, there have been many advances in bionic eye technology. Devices like the Augment 2 now allow you to read large text. Imagine if you could record and replay memories, or even stream other people's camera feeds and relive them for yourself. Maybe you could even zoom in and enhance. One day I could even hack into your eyes and play doggo videos directly into your brain. Well, anyways, congratulations on your new bionic eyes. But did you know people nowadays are experimenting with non-human senses as well? Magnetic sense. This one's a weird modification, but you need all the help you can get, my friend. So you get a professional to cut your finger open and stick an itty-bitty magnet inside. Now it wiggles whenever you're near a magnetic field. Seems a bit gimmicky, but it could be useful for an electrician. You could sense the shape and intensity of magnetic fields and even distinguish between AC and DC voltages. But there would be some disadvantages. Like, how would you get an MRI done? Have you seen how strong their magnets are? So we need to scan you for cancer. Sir? Or even worse, the magnet just rips out of your skin. You couldn't get past airport security either, but at least you can pick up paper clips with your finger. Your implant would demagnetize over time though, so eventually you're just left with a piece of trash and a demagnetized magnet. Looks good on you though, just don't get too close to that machine. Color sense. Neil Hobson was born with a rare form of complete colorblindness, and at the age of 22 he became the world's first pickman. He had a cyborg antenna implanted into his skull, with a camera on one end and a sound vibration implant on the other. Now he can hear colors through audible vibrations based on what the camera is seeing. The cool part is that he can see infrared and ultraviolet light too. Today's a sunscreen kind of day. But it turns out, having your brain constantly vibrating isn't fun. Make it stop, please. But the human brain is plastic, not literally made of plastic, but able to adapt and learn. So even though there was this new sense forcing its way in, Neil's brain eventually accepted it. Just like how our brains aren't overwhelmed by our eyes constantly seeing and our ears constantly hearing. I'll give you this. The antenna doesn't really do anything, but it's cute. Cyborg Sense Speed Round. North Sense is a little chest implant that jiggles every time you face north. Cento is a proximity sensor that jiggles when you're next to another Cento user. Seismic Sense is an implant that jiggles when the earth jiggles. These cyborgs sure do a lot of jiggling, don't they? Telepathic communication. I guess we should sort that out now, huh? Humans communicate like this. But imagine if you could talk like this instead. Well, to do this you'd need to read information from one brain and write it to other brains, or computers. Neuralink is already working on this with their brain-computer implant, and they've recently completed their first human trial. The patient, who was paralyzed from the shoulders down after an accident, can now use his mind to play RuneScape. The chip has a bunch of electrode threads which can read different signals from your brain. Their software then maps these signals to cursor movements on a screen. You could use this technology to map a brain to any computer interface, like a Jaeger. With this implant, you can now control this Roomba. Right now, brain-to-brain communication is pretty difficult because of seizures. But a simpler option would be to read a message from one brain and use a computer to transmit it to an ear implant. You could basically have your own private radio channel in your head. Reading information from brains could be a bit scary, though. I don't want people to know my intrusive thoughts. Neil the Pikmin and his jiggly cyborg buddy achieved a different form of cyborg communication with Bluetooth. And I mean literal Bluetooth. When they were in close range, they could communicate in Morse code by tapping their teeth. What happens when they're eating, though? How could you say that? Anyways, that's communication sorted. Wait, where'd you go? I guess it's time to get you some real bionic limbs. Bionic limbs. At the age of 17, rock climber Hur had both his legs amputated due to frostbite. Doctors told him he would never climb again, but instead of giving up, he turned his clunky prosthetic legs into ones that could outperform real human limbs. Spiked feet for climbing vertical ice walls, extending legs for reaching far footholds, and narrow-tipped feet that could slip into cracks way too thin for regular feet. His legs also didn't get tired while climbing anymore because he didn't have any muscles. Now he finds himself as the director of biomechatronics at MIT, where he designed special brain-controlled bionic legs. Microprocessors constantly adjust the stiffness of his joints to mimic how humans naturally walk. Look at how smoothly he moves. He hopes to enhance this ability in humans one day, but there are a few major problems to solve. First, one problem is that it's really hard to interface with human skin. It's hairy, oily, sweaty, and it chafes and cuts easily. You can't just duct tape a prosthetic on and call it a day. Hugh's research is developing synthetic skin to tackle this problem. It can change its shape and stiffness under electrostatic forces, kind of like how the glider cape from The Dark Knight turns from floppy to stiff when you run a current through it. So the synthetic skin is soft and stretchy on your squishy parts and stiffer where there's solid bone underneath. It's pretty comfy, but a gross problem that's often overlooked is sweat. Since prosthetics basically surround amputated limbs like a shoe, sweat doesn't evaporate. So some sports prosthetics include drain holes. Another interfacing option is OIO integration, which involves implanting titanium directly into the bone. Then you can swap out whatever attachment you want. But the biggest problem is that bionic limbs don't really feel like they're a part of you. Humans have a sense called proprioception, which is basically your body's spatial awareness. For example, if you close your eyes, you're still able to touch the tip of your nose with your finger. The same can't be said for bionic limbs just yet. But research is currently being done to solve this. Soon you could pick any bionic limb you want, and it would feel like a part of you. Bionic limb speed round. Jason Bonds is a drummer with a bionic arm attachment with 2 drumsticks, allowing him to play rhythms no other human can play. Jesse Sullivan is one of the world's first cyborgs, who had a bionic arm that could be controlled through nerve GRS in his chest. This dude stuck a USB in his finger. There's a company called Psionic that makes prosthetic arms that can punch through things. And now, with a few little adjustments, all finished. You look great. You're welcome. See you next time.